Welcome to UK Highland Photography here on YouTube, a channel dedicated to helping you to become a better photographer. Today we're going to be talking about what is shutter speed in photography. Shutter speed in photography is the speed at which your camera opens up its shutter in order to allow light to strike the sensor. There's two types of shutter speed, the first one being a fast shutter speed and the second one being a slow shutter speed. We use fast and slow shutter speeds for different purposes. For example, if it's a very sunny day, then this means there's a lot of light around us. So the chances are then we're going to use a fast shutter speed under these lighting conditions. However, if there's not much light around us, such as nighttime for example, then the chances are we're now going to use a slow shutter speed in order to allow more light to enter the camera and soaked up by the sensor. If all this sounds confusing to you, then don't worry, because if you ever look at the screen behind me, then we will see that I'm going to demonstrate to you how shutter speed does work on the Nikon D40 camera. Here we can see that the Nikon D40 is telling me that the shutter speed is currently set at 640th of a second. This means that this is a fast shutter speed. So when I press the button of the camera to take the photograph, then the photograph is taken at 640th of a second. However, now the Nikon D40 is telling me that the camera is currently set to 1 second. I know it's 1 second because of the quotation marks next to the actual number, which tells me that it is 1 second. A shutter speed of 1 second in photography is what we call a slow shutter speed. So now when I press the button on the camera, I now have to wait for a full 1 second for my camera to finish recording the actual image. So now let's just quickly recap on what it is that we have just learned. We have learned that if we're shooting on a fast shutter speed, like that of 640th of a second, then that would mean that there's perhaps a lot of light around us, like a sunny day. So a final photograph may look like this. However, if we were shooting on a slow shutter speed like that of 1 second, then that means the final photograph would probably look something more like this. Moving on, a fast shutter speed and a slow shutter speed have their own unique characteristics about them. For example, if you photograph a car on a fast shutter speed driving down the road, then chances are your final photograph will look something like this. This is because a fast shutter speed will freeze our subjects. However, if you photograph a car driving down the road on a slow shutter speed, like that of 1 second, then chances are your final photograph will look something like this. This is because a slow shutter speed will blur our subjects. Here's another example. If you photograph a car driving at an even slower shutter speed, like that of 10 seconds, then the chances are your final photograph will look something more like this. Again, this is thanks to the characteristics of a slow shutter speed, which allows us to add a sense of motion to our photographs. So let's just finish off by quickly going over what it is that we have just learned. We have just learned that if we use a fast shutter speed, then it's probably because we're working in areas where there's a lot of light available. Also, we have learned that the fast shutter speed will freeze subjects within our photographs. Also, we have learned that if we work with a slow shutter speed, then the chances are we are working in areas where there's not much light available. Also, we have learned that the slow shutter speed helps us to add a blur effect to our subjects in the photographs. So there you have it, our very basic introduction to what is shutter speed in photography. Please subscribe to our channel and remember to check out our online shop over at www.ukhighland.com.